Go.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another version of the Bronx Bomber Blog Podcast. Alongside my two co-hosts, Scott Landry and Bryan Peng, I'm Matt Cote, here to bring you some more news in the great happenings that is the Yankees offseason. Not that it's even really begun right now, because there's this little thing happening called the World Series right now, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We'd like to start off, our own Scott Landry just recently had an article 2 days ago. We get up?
A couple days ago, this weekend. I think it was Saturday.
Saturday, I put it up about a couple very interesting trade packages that the Yankees could get to bring in some young pitching. So, Scott, I'm going to let you kind of take over from here if you want to go through
Absolutely.
Deal one by one, and your thought process and how it got involved.
Well, I was pretty happy with it. It seemed like I got generally positive reviews on it. A lot of people were receptive to the idea of trading Greg Bird for a more known product. I actually got one comment on it that said, we need to have to share on this team for as long as he plays because he brings something to the team. And I think that a lot of people overlook this idea. They think, Teixeira is injury prone, this or that. They don't understand that this guy's hitting 31 home runs in 111 games. I have on my article. That was better than Joey Votto, Jose Abreu, Adrian Gonzalez, and Miguel Cabrera just a year ago. So he's doing pretty good in his own right. And so Greg Bird kind of becomes this luxury trade chip that we have to work around with. And we all know that the Yankees lacked an ace. So I ran through 3 potential trades. They all kind of vary in size of magnitude and I'd say realistic possibility. But it basically boils down to Carlos Carrasco, Tyson Ross, and Sonny Gray. Now, I'll start with Carlos Carrasco, and Carlos Carrasco is 28, and he had a great year for the Indians. I mean, Yankees fans should know this. He dominated us every time we went out against him. He's I believe he underwent Tommy John surgery just a year ago or something to that degree, but he broke into the league kind of a rough start, but he bounced back this year, and the Indians line up as a perfect trade partner because they're having first base issues, all the way around. You look at Brandon Moss, who they traded for last year, kind of, he hit 19 home runs this year, but a .226 average. You can say about the same for Carlos Santana, who's kind of fallen out of favor with the fans and management there. Greg Bird would be the perfect, I'd say trade chip to trade to the Cleveland Indians. I think they jump all over that opportunity, and I said that we should trade Greg Bird, Ivan Nova, and Brian Mitchell for him. Steven Erickson wrote an article about why we should trade Ivan Nova, and I encourage you to go look at that. But I think that kind of package is fair for both sides. Cleveland gets a stud first baseman, or what could be a stud first baseman, I should say. Ivan Nova is probably a good 4 or 5 pitcher, but he's just not consistent enough right now to be labeled anything other than that. And Brian Mitchell's kind of a wild card. He can be good, he can be bad. That horrible injury where he got hit in the head by the ball this year. You don't know how he's going to be after that, but I think that would probably be the most realistic scenario of any of the ones that I posted on here. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Anything that you thought, Matt, being a Red Sox fan? What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Indians are definitely probably going to be shopping some of their young starters. Carrasco, obviously, as you mentioned, Danny Salazar, definitely another young possibility, young pitcher I like a lot. I think the deal definitely has sense. It could have some legs to it. It would work for both sides. Obviously Greg Bird we think is going to be a very good major league player. You mentioned Brandon Moss, who they actually shipped to St. Louis in August, so he's not even there anymore. And there was the whole Carlos Santana. They were trying him at third base, so they really are kind of first baseless. So he could definitely slot in. He proved he can play comparable at a major league level. He's got some pop. That would be a nice fit. Ivan Nova is kind of a head case in New York. I think he's run his course there. Maybe he just needs a change of scenery, kind of like A.J. Burnett a few years ago. Now, obviously, A.J. Burnett's a much better pitcher than Ivan Nova, but he goes to the Pirates, and, he's kind of revitalized his career, so that could certainly help Nova and hopefully, get the Indians a little on track. Brian Mitchell, like you said, we kind of don't really know. He throws really hard. Which is enticing to a lot of teams' power throwers, but you mentioned, he took the liner off the head, just a gruesome injury. So it really, it remains to be seen how he's going to, come back. Maybe you can add another low level prospect in there, maybe do some cash either way. But it definitely is a deal that I think could have some legs to it, could help both teams. and definitely could happen.
Yeah, at first I wasn't really sure how to react, but I remember first seeing Carlos Carrasco when he was pitching at Tampa, and he went 8 2/3 without a hit, and then he lost.
I think he had 2 1-hitters this year.
He came. I think he took perfect games twice into the 9th inning, or no hitters or something.
Actually, you're right. Yeah, at KC, 15 strikeout game in late September, and then obviously on July 1st, 8 2/3, 1 hit and 1 hit, which came in the 8th inning, and then in the 9th inning. And so, yes, I actually would like to see that deal happen because Greg Bird is not going to get any playing time in New York, and because Mark Teixeira is going to be starting every day. And you look at Brian Mitchell, who as much as I feel bad for him in the injury, I don't think he's ready to be a middle relief pitcher, a reliable one at that. We have Chase and Shreve, who I hope will be good next year, and we have Adam Warren, who I think are good 2 solid pitchers who could go extended innings. So I'm not worried about the Yankees losing depth there. And in terms of Ivan Nova is a wreck. He 2 minutes per inning, and you can tell that I think, his Tommy John, I think, hasn't helped him at all. Hasn't helped his arm strength. So I would like to see this deal happen. Perhaps the Yankees could get a minor league prospect, like Matt said, a B level, maybe C+ level prospect back, just to see if the Yankees.
Okay, I'm sorry, guys. My phone completely froze up right there.
Yeah, mine too. I totally lost the audio.
What was the last thing that I said? Because I'll just repeat that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Go ahead and say it again. Just real quick.
We're all like blank stares.
Like the last part or like the entire part?
You know what? It's all good. We'll just move on from here.
Yeah.
I think it's worth noting that I have a chart here. Carlos Carrasco had 216 strikeouts this year, and that is more than Cole Hamels, Jacob deGrom, Garrett Cole, Zach Greinke, and Felix Hernandez. So this dude can strike people out. He does it on a routine basis. And one thing I want to note, you see a lot of people who don't, read our article all the way through or something like that, and they say, we can't be trading the farm system away. We got to get younger. All these guys are on the right side of 30. They're 28, 28, and then Sonny Gray. I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's 23, I believe, right
23,
now.
24. He's real young.
Okay, so these are all young guys.
25. He just turned. He's gonna be 26 actually in a couple weeks.
All right, same difference, Brad.
So, you look at these.
Brad, I don't know if you're calling Brad, dude. There's no Brad here.
You look at these guys, and they're young guys who are under control and pretty cheap for their production for the next couple of years, as opposed to shelling out big for a big name starter with years and the big money for it. So the next one up is Tyson Ross. He was, I believe, linked to your Red Sox at some point.
He's been linked to him for like 2-3 years now. That's just, never comes to fruition.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating because that he's a great pitcher. 212 strikeouts this year, also more than DeGrom, Cole, Greinke, and Hernandez. Young guy, 28. He's, let's see here, I believe, 195 innings the last 2 years, so he's durable. And, just another, you can almost put him and Carrasco next to each other and see the same pitcher. The only difference I have here is, San Diego's in kind of this rebuild stage. They went for it all, and it failed miserably, unfortunately, for them. So they emptied their farm system, and they need a way to, kind of refill that farm system. So the package I have it traded for Tyson Ross and Craig Kimbrell as a kind of salary relief type trade. I'm giving up Greg Bird, Gary Sanchez, Michael Pineda, and Jorge Mateo, which the Padres so infamously coveted at the deadline for a deal for Kimbrell that eventually fell through. So I will admit this is giving up quite a bit, but I think that this trade would certainly be worth it for the Yankees. You get Tyson Ross, who could instantly help that rotation. And then Craig Kimbrell, who you can set next to, Justin Wilson, Andrew Miller, and Dylan Betances, and boom, you have one of the best bullpens. I think that is the best bullpen in all of baseball. If you get all those guys in the same bullpen. So you're shoring up the rotation in 2 ways by getting, a lockdown. I wouldn't say, Tyson Ross is getting to be an ace. I'd say he's, at least a high 2 type pitcher. And then you're getting a reliever who can, shorten games even more than the Yankees have already tried to shorten it with their bullpen. So it's giving up quite a bit in prospects. Obviously, Greg Bird's going to make sense for them. They got first base issues. I think Yonder Alonso was their first baseman.
He was.
Last time I checked, and it's just
the problem.
Yeah, it's just not getting it, done for them. I think Gary Sanchez could be a good fill. They have Derek Norris right now at catcher, but he's probably not a long-term answer. So Gary Sanchez, I think, would be very appealing, whom I might know. Is it 5 home runs and I believe 8 games so far on the Arizona Fall League? So his stock
very impressive.
400 way up.
Is way up. Yeah.
Yeah. Michael Pineda, I think he needs a change of scenery. He's, up and down. We talked about this last podcast. He'll either strike a million people out or he'll give up a million runs. You never really know what you're going to get with him. And then Jorge Mateo, that might be a tough one to give up if he pans out. But, speedsters, in the MLB, all depends on their ability to get on base and utilize that speed. And we see far too often, look at Brett Gardner, somebody on our own team who, he has that speed, but if he can't get on base consistently, if you're striking out how many times a game, it doesn't help us much. And speaking of Brett Gardner, I will add in that I did read an article today that actually was considering trading Brett Gardner in a package for Craig Kimbrell, and I didn't realize this, but that makes sense because they're losing Justin Upton. He's probably going to walk. They probably won't re-sign him. So you could even substitute Brett Gardner in for one of these guys, and I think you'd have a solid case to send this package over.
And if the Yankees signed Justin Upton, you essentially traded Brett Gardner for Craig Kimbrell and Justin Upton.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't get better than that.
So pat yourself on the back, Cat.
That'd be his best move in a while. I also agree with this deal. I would be more hesitant to perhaps give up Mateo, but like Scott said, he's still I want to say he's still 2 or 3 years away actually from the major league. So who knows, what's going to happen then, So I don't want to worry about that. Gary Sanchez, if he keeps playing well in the Arizona Fall League, then his value is going to go up, which will help. Like I said, no issue with giving up Greg Bird and Pineda, no issue there. The Yankees do need a right-handed bat, and even if you add Gardner to this deal and get someone else from San Diego, I don't know who it would be. Perhaps this deal could work, and you'd add Justin Upton, Ross, and Kimbrell, and get rid of players that weren't that great for the Yankees. And I think this is a potential deal to make. And I hope Cashman is watching this.
Yeah, if you want to even add more to that deal, if you want to throw Gardner in that package, maybe you take Jed Jerko back, who was kind of the Padre guy they wanted to give up at the deadline that the Yankees actually ultimately agreed to take on. But just talking about the deal in general, as it was proposed by Scott in the article, again, I think it makes a lot of sense. You're getting a good young stud pitcher with the potential to become an ace. Like you said, Scott, I agree. I think he's a high 2 right now. Definitely very good stuff, a lot of composure on the mound. I'm not so worried about trading Mateo. I'm definitely not one who's a prospect hugger, certainly in my own team, and it kind of annoys me when other teams do it as much. I mean, I look at prospects as trade chips. Unless you're 100% sure that they are Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, these once-in-a-lifetime guys, that's okay. Absolutely, you hold on to them. I don't think Mateo is going to even sniff that type of category.
No.
I think he's going to be a fine player. And, it might come back, 5 years from now where Yankee fans, crap, look at there's that guy. He's going off again, and we had him. But you know what? I think Tyson Ross would work out in the Bronx. I think it's a good deal to be made. I think the pieces fit. I think Michael Pineda could be a really good pitcher in the NL West. Obviously. But he has great stuff. The stuff has never been the issue with him. It's just, he gets in his own head. He does stupid things. Injuries happen. But I would definitely, I don't know if I'd like to see Tyson Ross in the Bronx. It would definitely, as a baseball move, it's a phenomenal move, and I think he would absolutely excel there. And I think the guys going back to San Diego would definitely help the Padres, who, as we mentioned, they went out this offseason, spent a ton of money, brought in both the Upton brothers, got Kimbrell in the trade with Melvin Upton. They went out, they traded for Derek Norris, they signed James Shields. They were in on the Pablo Sandoval negotiations until the last minute, throwing out $90 million there. So they really were going for it all this offseason, and obviously did not pan out the way they were hoping for, and they kind of missed a good opportunity at the deadline to sell off some of those pieces. They're definitely losing Justin Upton, so this deal for them would definitely help their rebuilding because that's what they need to do. AJ Preller's got to get that through his thick skull that throwing out all this money doesn't always work. We've seen it with multiple teams, 2011 Red Sox. Some of the Yankees teams in past years.
Yankees last year.
the Yankees last year. I mean, the Dodgers make the playoffs, but they lose in the first round every year. Whoop-de-freaking-d. I mean, just end the season in September. Why play those 4 games in October? It makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, I like the deal, Scott. So I think I think you hit the nail on the head with the first 2. And I know I'm gonna like slightly disagree with you on the third one, but I'll let you get to that.
Yeah, that's fine. And I just really want to reiterate what you said about the prospect hugging too, because a lot of people argue with us, about this on the Twitter and whatever. But why would you take a risk on something you don't know is going to turn out instead of turning it into something you know is good, that you know is going to perform on the field? That just makes no sense to me. And even if the guy turns out, he might just be the same exact player as you could have traded for. So why take that risk and not go for that? It's just a really risky kind of way to go about things. So
I mean, exactly. For every Carl Pavano for Pedro Martinez and Larry Anderson for Jeff Bagwell, there's you get a stud young Gary Sheffield for Pete Orr. Pete Orr was never traded for me. Like preface, I was just trying to think of a crappy guy who was supposed to be pretty good. But more times than not, the guys you're getting in return who are major league talent are going to be better than the.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. And I'll reference the infamous not a couple of years ago, but way back when Miguel Cabrera was first bursting upon the scene, came out a report that I believe he's at the Marlins at that time were willing to trade him to the Yankees, but Brian Cashman didn't want to give up Jabba Chamberlain and Phil Hughes.
That worked out well.
And that
great idea.
Oh, thank goodness. Yeah.
Good old Justin Chamberlain from Nebraska.
Yeah. Well, hey, it all worked out because now Mark Teixeira is the Yankee first baseman, so hey, that's all good in my book.
Yeah, get ahead. Cabrera in third for those years, though.
All right, just to add on before we move on to the next topic, to throw a couple statistics out there. We talk about how he pitched at Petco Park, but he gave up, I think he gave up 2 home runs all year at Petco. Or no, 2 home runs away from Petco, actually. So, potentially, he will give up more home runs in Yankee Stadium, but he gave up 9.
Everybody would. I mean,
so I didn't hear what Matt said. So
I'm just saying everybody would. I mean, that's not a definition.
Yeah, but, I mean, yeah. But, I mean, I think that number looked good. But my concern is also with the walks. He walked, I think his walk was like almost 4 per every 9 innings, and a lot of these outings had more than 3 walks. So that's a concern that I have, putting runners on at Yankee Stadium. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. But, he strikes out, I mean, he doesn't have a high strikeout number. Well, he does, 212 per year, 212 this year. So, yeah. So,
totally contradicted.
So many numbers right now.
He doesn't do this well. Oh, he does.
No, and I think that you adapt when you go to Yankee Stadium. I think that, every pitcher has to when you go there. So I think he'll figure it out. I really like the fact that he doesn't give, home runs, and that's going to be huge. You look at that's Masahiro Tanaka's problem, is he just gives up way too many home runs. That's what's preventing him from being this ace that he was for the first half of last year. So I think bringing Ross over, he's 28, he's young, he still has, room to improve. Theoretically, he hasn't even hit his prime, I guess we could say, yet. So I think that it'll all work out, bringing him over, if we choose to, I should say.
Which deal would you guys prefer? I don't know. I'm not the Red Sox fan, so I guess if you could try to be unbiased there. But for Scott,
hold on. Let me talk about Sonny Gray real quick, and then we'll take our picks.
Yeah. For sure.
Because I think our answer would all be Sonny Gray.
Yeah, I think that's what we would all decide upon.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was gonna look for but we can talk about that later. So go ahead.
Well, and Sonny Gray, I put him on here, but I'll be the first to admit that this, move is a bit of a long shot. It's going to take an awful lot to get Sonny Gray out of Oakland, and my rationale is you look at what the Athletics did this last year. Aside from Sonny Gray, anybody who was above average on that team, they traded away for something. Ben Zobrist, Josh Donaldson is a lot of, I look at that trade and look at, Oakland didn't get too much back for Josh Donaldson. When you look at the kind of player that Josh Donaldson is, they kind of, something about Toronto, people give them, good players for basically nothing. Tulowitzki trade or the Marlins trade, I don't know what that's all about. People just give players to Toronto, but you look at the Athletics and, they got holes, to fill, pretty much at every position. You can name a position and you can make an argument that they need to upgrade it. So My package has sending Greg Bird, Gary Sanchez, Jorge Mateo, Slade Heathcott, and Michael Pineda over. And I think you can make a solid argument that, those guys could bolster their team at some point, in the next several years. They have all these openings. And I know that Matt thinks that, probably should be sending over more. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. But like I said, I'm basing this off of the Toronto trade, with Josh Donaldson, that maybe they won't charge as much as you think they should. We'll see what Billy Beane does, but I definitely think that Sonny Gray, for them, in their case, would be a great piece to trade off and, sell incredibly high on him now because he's not a free agent until 2020. So, the most value you can get out of him is now, and it's quite a bit of value. So the Athletics aren't going to be in competition for years. I mean, they were last in the American League this last year. I mean, they didn't even come close to, looking like a competitor at any point. So, now is the time for them to trade Sonny Gray. I would, Matt kind of said this last podcast, go to them with a list of 10 names and say, pick 5. Pick 5 of these names, and we'll take Sonny Gray, and you can have any 5 of those. And the only 2 prospects that I wouldn't trade right now is Luis Severino and Aaron Judge. Those guys, we talk about the rare exceptions of guys who seem like they're going to be sure things. Right now, Luis Severino has proven that he can pitch at a big league level. Aaron Judge, I'd be more willing to part with, but, he's got these Giancarlo Stanton-like comparisons. He's played pretty well in AAA. But if that was the hang-up, if he was the difference between getting Sonny Gray or not, I would send him over to Oakland.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think to get Sonny Gray, you're going to have to part with one of Severino or Judge. And that's where I'm not really siding with prospect huggers, but I definitely see their point because I do think both Luis Severino and Aaron Judge are going to be very good, if not exceptionally good, major league players. The issue with that, Sonny Gray is already an exceptionally good major league pitcher. And like you said, his value is never going to be higher than it is now. And the Billy Beane is weird. I mean,
yes, he is.
And the thing is, you mentioned the Josh Donaldson trade. From everything I heard is a bunch of teams, and I know including the Red Sox, offered a better package for Josh Donaldson. And Beane repeatedly told all of those teams, he's not being moved, we're not moving him, until Toronto came to him, and he was just enamored with Toronto's prospects. So maybe in his own little world, Billy Beane is enamored with some of these Yankee prospects that's names are not Luis.
Hopefully.
Hopefully for your guys' sake, for sure, because, I mean, Sonny Gray is an ace. I mean, he is an absolute stud, and he is going to continue to be that for years to come. I think it would be a great trade for the Yankees. Like I said, you're going to have to add more to that deal. I think that's just not going to get it done. You're going to have to add Severino or Judge because if you don't add that and you're Billy Beane and you make that trade, that's hard to justify keeping your job for. I mean, you just gave away your controllable young superstar who is basically the reason that you get people into that albatross that is the O.Co Coliseum, and you gave him up for, who the hell is Slade Heathcott? Like, that's what people are going to be saying. Obviously, I know who Slade Heathcott is. But that's literally the reaction you're going to get. So you're going to have to, I think, give up more than one of those guys, and that's going to be tough. And I'm not really going to get on Brian Cashman if he is just going to pass on that. But again, I'm not. If he decides to make the deal and give up one of them, then good. You have some cojones there, Mr. Cashman, and you just made your team a hell of a lot better. Brian.
Yeah, I just want to add that. Do you guys see potentially if you add Gardner into that list, whether it'd make that trade more viable?
That's a little tougher in the case of the Athletics because they're not in a contention state. You could make an argument that the Padres are still kind of maybe around a wild card, if that. So trading them, Brett Gardner to the Padres makes more sense. I think right now if the Athletics were going to make a trade, they'd be looking purely for prospects in the future. So unfortunately, I don't think that it adds any more value. It might even detract value. You know, Brett Gardner's contract isn't huge, but that's still more money they'd be having to pay a guy every day. And we all know that that's not Oakland's, you know, that's not how they operate.
Yeah, I don't see this trade happening, but it's...
And I agree. I say it's a long shot. You know, I'll be the first to admit it, but I'm saying should he become available, the Yankees should certainly try and throw something like this at them. Yeah, they'll maybe have to up their offer some, but this is where I'd start here and see, you know, heck, maybe they take it. Maybe they take it right off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great starting point. No, for sure. You never, you know, tip your hand. I'm just kind of taking back that Brian thought adding Brett Gardner might help that package.
Just a thought.
Look at my face.
Just to spark debate on this platform.
That makes absolutely no sense. You can throw him in the package, but it's not going to help anymore. I mean, if you want to give the Athletics a major league ready outfielder, sure, go ahead, but it's not going to do anything else. I mean, you're still going to have to give up the ton of prospects. Maybe you can take out one of the lower level guys, but you're still giving up. Mateo, Judge Severino, one of those guys, Ref Snyder, throw Heathcott in there too.
Maybe it'd be Gardner instead of Heathcott. That I could see holding a little more water to.
Sure. I'll give you that. Yeah. That's a little bit better of a deal. Absolutely. But, I don't know. If you're Billy Beane, though, besides the fact that his value is as high as it's ever going to be, why do you trade him right now? I mean, the only reason to do it is because his value is never going to be higher, but he's still under control for a long time, and assuming he doesn't get hurt this year, his value is going to be great again next year. It might even be higher at the trade deadline. That's when people's values are even higher, because you have these teams gearing up for the pennant run. And, somebody like Sonny Gray absolutely puts a team over the top that's, fighting with another squad.
Well, and just a counter argument to that, what happens if Billy Beane holds on to him hurt and diminishes his value? So there's multiple, and I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying there's so many ways that you could look at this. You can make arguments, strongly for both sides here, and that's the beauty of baseball. So.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it can go one way. That's what
we don't see this coming, but then again, Billy Beane was very insistent that he wasn't going to trade Josh Donaldson last year.
He's a mental case. I mean, let's say the guy's
I think John Heyman actually came out with a report recently that said that the Yankees wouldn't push, obviously won't go north of 200 pitcher, and that might eliminate them from Cueto, Zimmerman, Price, and the big four of the free agent pitchers. So apparently Jeff Samardzija came up as a name, which
he's not much of an improvement over what we have.
Yes. So I don't know why his name is up in the report, but that's something that I read just before we went live.
God, that's
right.
I
read.
He said something. I don't know why that happened, because I don't know why the Yankees would do that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know. Jeff Samardzija is the type of guy. Sorry to interrupt you, Scott. He's the type of guy that goes like 8 innings, gives up 1 run, or he goes 3 innings and gives up 5. He's never 6-3. He's got great stuff, but I think his hair gets in the way sometimes. I do. What other way is it to describe it?
I was gonna say, can you really make the argument that he's any better than Pineda or Nova right now? I don't think you really can. You look at these numbers, and I've never personally thought that Jeff Samardzija was that great. Even back with the Cubs, he had one good season, but other than that, he really has not been that good. He's been pretty overrated in his career. So I'm pretty staunchly opposed to signing Jeff Samardzija. I'm not opposed to signing good players, but I'm opposed to signing bad players. He'd probably get a sizable deal. So I think I'd be opposed to it in that case. But
I would take him over Nova, but over Pineda, I'd probably take him over Pineda, but I'd probably rather Pineda because you already have him on your roster and you don't need to throw out the money for him.
Yeah,
I think he's a little bit better than both of those guys, and he's probably even worth the contract more than Ivan Nova, but he's not for Michael Pineda. So that's I would stay with that. I would stay away from the Shark. Yeah,
according to Wallace Matthews, who I think
is good guy
for the Yankees. Yeah, according to him, he says that Daniel Murphy will be pursued by the Yankees along with Ben Zobrist, and the Yankees want to spend big on the fielder.
Are you kidding me?
This is what I'm reading off a website. So this is contradicting kind of what we were talking about in terms of the Yankees should let Ackley and Russ Snyder handle second base for at least the beginning of next year and see how that works out. And that means if they spend big on a fielder, I don't think they'll be spending big on a pitcher, which means they might stick with the rotation they have this year, which I'm not too happy about at all.
That's unfortunate.
I'd be disappointed. You know, I think the rotation. If I was Brian Cashman, my blueprint for the offseason would be build the rotation through trades and sign guys that go to the free agent market to find your hitters. I believe Matt's Pizza has arrived. The thing about
this is actually a great Scott. This is actually a great time for us to segment into part 2. I know that Chad wanted us to have 30-minute segments, so if that's cool with you, we're just gonna stop this one and then we'll just keep the conversation going. So I'll just start a new one. All right.
All right. Sounds good, man.
All right. I'll see you in a bit.
See you.